me, I'm in a quite fortunate position because I've got quite a big house, I've got my own space. Probably not going to be shaking hands with strangers. You're not going to be hugging your friends like you once did. That's why I think the horror genre does so well, because we like to be in fear, we like to be shocked. I wanted the story to jump between the victim's point of view of the young person that is murdered, and then also I wanted it to swap to the killer's point of view. And I'm not going to give you an end date. I know I said last year that after 2 years I would step away from this, but no, DJ Bagpuss is back and I'm here for the long haul. And we are recording. Okay, we are recording. Hello everybody, welcome back to season 2 of the DJ Bagpuss Show. It's been, like a year since the last one of these. It has been incredibly crazy how long it's been, and the last time I sat you guys down in a podcast setting, it was me announcing that after 2 years of doing YouTube I was going to say goodbye and talking about my 2-year anniversary, and then I just didn't touch YouTube for like months upon months upon months. But we are back. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought my YouTube life back. I have risen from the depths and depths of YouTube, and so I have uploaded not one video, not 2 videos, but this will be the 3rd video in the space of 3 days. I mean, this has been unheard of in DJ Bagpuss territory recently. Back when I was doing YouTube full time, I was absolutely all over YouTube, consistently and considering uploading loads and loads of videos. But we're back, and we've got a few things to talk about in today's podcast. Actually, I'm going to be giving you guys the behind the scenes to the story that I created. Why is my chair going all the way down? That's better. My chair, literally as I was talking, I could feel myself sliding further and further and further down. I was sitting there thinking, what's going on with my chair? Why is my chair doing this? Anyway, we've got a couple of things to talk about. I'll be giving you guys my behind the scenes to the Murdered by Username, my short story, my fictional short story that I've literally just uploaded today, and the feedback so far on it has been really, really positive. Obviously I've not had a lot of feedback because I literally only uploaded it a few hours ago. So that is live on my channel. I'll leave a link to that down in the description below. If you haven't checked out my fictional story, then please do go and give it a listen. Give it some support and let me know your thoughts and feelings too. I want to find out what I did well, what I didn't do so well, and I want to tell you guys about how I was writing that story, how I came up with the idea. We'll be talking about that a little later on. I'm also going to be discussing my life changes, but to start, I want to give you guys my thoughts and feelings to life in lockdown. I don't want to spend too much time talking about the COVID-19 pandemic because I'd already given you my thoughts and feelings to it in a video that I did a couple of weeks ago, and I think everybody at this stage is probably absolutely sick to the brim of hearing all about the pandemic. But I do think it's an important thing to talk about, and it's a topical time to talk about it as well, because I've been in self-isolation now since March 16th, 2020. So I think it's about 26, 27 days of me being in absolute self-isolation. We kind of went into a family household isolation because one of our household members had a high temperature. Back then it was kind of, they got that right on the day when the government said if one person in your household has got suspected symptoms of COVID-19, then you all have to self-isolate for 14 days. We did that. We were then told on March 23rd, 2020 that we were going into lockdown and we could only leave our house for the 4 following options. So we're basically now all shielded. With my medical conditions as well, I'm kind of shielded, and I haven't actually been out, although I've been out in my garden a couple of times. I've literally been at home for the last 4 or 5 weeks, so I'm working from home, and I think we're all kind of getting to grips with this new life. Obviously it's not a life that we're going to have forever. Things will eventually go back to normal. But right now, this is where we are. And also, it's Easter Sunday, so this is kind of a prime weekend of going out, seeing, friends, family, loved ones, going out and about. I remember last Easter, I went clubbing and basically did one of these Easter Saturday club sessions, and it was absolutely brilliant. And normally the clubs, the pubs, the parks, the beaches would be flowing with people, and everybody's effectively sitting at home, and it poses new challenges, it poses new obstacles, and effectively I would be completely upfront and honest about how I'm dealing with staying in lockdown, because it comes over you in waves. I seem to have waves of feeling really good, really upbeat, and feeling like this is fine, this is great, we can get through this, we can push through this together. And then I have other times where I feel really upset, depressed, and again, I think that's natural because it's an unnatural thing that's happened to us. And I think the other reason why we're all struggling, so I'm going through stages of struggling with staying at home, and then other times of feeling absolutely fine. I think it's because we all want what we can't have. So if someone had said to you, you don't have to come in to work, you can stay at home all day, every day, you can do what you want when you want, to a point. Obviously we all have bits and pieces that we've got to do. If we're still working from home, we still are obliged to turn up at the hours that we would do if we were going into the office, so to speak. But effectively, if we were given that chance, if someone had sat us down, given us a card and said, look, you can do whatever you want, okay, and you can stay at home, we would take that card and run. Take it and run. Absolutely run, because that is like paradise. The idea that we don't have to get up early, we don't have to travel, we don't have to do all of the mundane bits and pieces that gets us down. We would be on cloud 9, but this is not our choice. We're not actively choosing to stay at home. We're doing it because we want to protect lives and save the NHS through this terrible and tragic pandemic. But it isn't through sole choice. We're being told that this is what we should be doing, and if we don't do this, we're going to get fines. And effectively, if you're an idiot, you're going out there and you're socialising. The smart people and intelligent people are sitting at home, even if they don't really want to, because they know that it's protecting themselves, it's protecting their families, and effectively you are as safe as you can be being in these four walls. So that's what I think the biggest problem is, because we all want stuff that we can't have. So, you know, for me, I'm in a quite fortunate position because I've got quite a big house, I've got my own space, my own room, so I don't feel cooped up and confined to one specific place. So I can spend time with my family, who are the people that mean the most to me, but I also can have my own space, which I also really enjoy having. The biggest problem that I am finding is that I'm not able to see my partner. So I've got all of my family but one person, and all of the plans and all of the things that we were doing and the fact that we always are seeing each other, that's been taken away, and that is something that I'm struggling with. I have moments where it hits me harder than what it actually does. So I go through waves. This is what I keep saying, that I go through waves of how I'm feeling. Sometimes I'm feeling really bubbly, other times I just want to sit there and cry, and I can't really explain it because it's a feeling that I don't really know why I'm going through these different kind of waves. But I'm being very proactive, and I think that's the other really important thing. I find that when I'm just sitting on my bed watching telly, that's when I start to feel a little bit fed up, a little bit depressed. It plays negatively on our own mental health if we're just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. So I think being proactive is really, really important. And I'm also the sort of person that lives by a routine. I love having a routine. I love knowing that, okay, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm also going to do after that, this is what I'm going to do to round off the day. And I've noticed that doing different things throughout the day is really, really helping. I mean, you know, for 5 days of the week I'm working from home, and I'm working from, you know, 8:30 in the morning till sometimes 5, 6 o'clock at night. And I think if I wasn't working from home doing my, you know, proper job, then I would be going off my head, because that makes the days go quicker. It gives you a purpose, it makes you feel like you're still actually doing something. And actually, working is the best thing right now. It's really, really random and really, really weird, because we all kind of sit there and moan and thinking that, oh, I wish we didn't have to work. But actually, I think you would find that if you weren't working, you would become incredibly, incredibly bored, even if you were able to go out. Because there's only so much you can do when you go out, there's only so much you can do when you're at home. And we're all quite nitpicky. It's never enough, it's never good enough, and that's kind of all of these little individual ingredients are added up to the positive and negatives of self-isolating. But I find that, you know, I've got loads of video games to play, I've got loads of movies and television shows to watch, I've got my YouTube channel that I'm trying to build back up, although I probably am going to stick to maybe uploading once a month, because I don't want to spend all of my time running a YouTube channel, and it does take a large amount of time. I don't think people really understand just how time consuming doing something like this is. I mean, it isn't just me sitting down, turning on my camera, recording a video, talking for a little bit and then uploading that video onto YouTube, although I do kind of make those type of videos every now and again, and those videos don't take too long. But the videos that I've been working on over the weekend, so the Fortnite Good Friday Easter special that I did, and also my audiobook, which I've been spending the last week editing really, and I'll come on to that in the second part of this podcast. But those type of videos take much longer to create and make, because you've got the recording part, which maybe takes, I would say, an hour, 2 hours at most, but then editing can take 12, 13, 14 hours over a specific period, and I've been doing it in blocks, kind of, not doing it all in one go, but spacing it out. And then obviously you've got the upload inside, you've got to check your videos as well. I mean, my audiobook was an hour, so I watched it I think 3 times. That's already 3 hours of your time, and obviously you're not doing an entire run from start to finish. You're pausing, adding little bits and pieces. So running a YouTube channel is very time consuming, so I don't want to spend all of my time doing that when I've got gaming, when I've got movies and television shows to watch, family time, and also I video call my partner every night, and I've also got conference calls with my colleagues as well. So I think that's really important, to have my own routine and to kind of run into a schedule is helping, rather than just sitting there and doing absolutely nothing. I'm also trying to go outside a bit more. So yesterday was the first time that I'd gone out since March 23rd, 2020. I went out to help with the rubbish, and also I did a little bit of exercise. But I hadn't gone out since then, and I thought, right, I'm gonna take half an hour, I'll get a beer out of my fridge, I'll sit down, I'll put my headphones on, and I'll just relax. Also went out today to do Easter games with my family, and that is really, really important. I'm actually going to buy myself a ball. I know, don't adjust your screens, you've heard that right. I'm actually going to buy a ball. I used to have a whole collection of bouncy balls and footballs, and then we got rid of them, because then I thought to myself, I'm not actually going to be doing this, and I'm not kind of a sporty kind of person. But sitting in the garden and relaxing with a drink and your headphones is perfect. But if you actually want to do a bit of exercise, if I order myself a ball, and then I can kind of kick a ball around or bounce a ball around, I've got something that I can do. And I used to do that quite a bit when I was a child. I didn't do it for long periods and large periods, but I thought to myself, yeah, that's what I'm going to get. I've got some Easter money, so I can treat myself to one of those £2, £3 footballs over the next few weeks. I mean, I've got lots of stuff to try and keep myself occupied, and I think it's only natural. I think it's absolutely natural that we're all going to have those moments. I mean, the other thing that I find as well is that I love communicating. I love conversations. I love discussions. I love words, just writing, communicating. I love watching people communicate and discuss, and that's why I love doing YouTube, because that is what you're doing. I'm doing podcasts, I'm using words, I'm telling stories, I'm using words in a creative way to entertain you guys. And as much as I love that, being in self-isolation has tested my communication skills to the very edge, because as I'm at home, I'm not doing lots of stuff. Even though I am doing lots of stuff, but I'm not doing stuff that warrants an interesting conversation, if that makes sense. So effectively what I'm saying is that I'm getting to that point where I'm going to really work out what to do and what to speak about with other people. Because when you go out to work, or when you go out and about, you discuss what you've been doing or what you're working on, which you're still doing now, but because you're working from home, you seem to find less interesting stuff to discuss, I find anyway. And you talk about upcoming plans and events that you're going to do, or things that you've just done, or stuff that you've seen on the television, or music tracks that you've heard, and ultimately lots of stuff that we discuss we're not doing. So we're not discussing those bits and pieces. And other times, we'll have conversations with people, we'll then turn on the telly and we'll watch something, or we'll listen to a piece of music, or we'll go out for a meal, or we'll go bowling, or we'll do loads of different stuff that then we can discuss when we next see each other. And that's been stripped away. So all you have at the moment is your words and communication. That is the only thing that everybody's got right now. And if you find that you're struggling with communication, I mean, I think I'm quite good at speaking, I'm quite good with my words, and I love having a conversation, and at times I'm struggling with this. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, if I'm struggling with this communication and constantly having to speak to people, then if you're not as confident and frequent and fluid in the way that you're speaking, how on earth are you feeling? Because if I'm struggling, other people who don't find communication as easy as I do must be really, really struggling, because again, it's all that we've got right now. And I think that it plays on your mental health, everybody's mental health. I don't care who you are. You could sit there and say to me that you absolutely are happy staying at home, you've got everything that you need, you've got everyone that you need, but this is not a normal situation. And if you're not feeling the effects of staying at home, the longer that this pandemic rages on, you will be affected by it. Even if you're not feeling that you're affected by it consciously, subconsciously you're feeling the effects of it. I mean, I know loads of people that are struggling sleeping, and I'm having like really weird and vivid dreams that I kind of wake up and think, cool, where was my mind going with that, or why was I thinking about that? And so I think that this situation is playing on all of our minds, consciously and subconsciously. But the most important thing about that, I mean, it's natural for us to be feeling the effects of this. It's natural for us to have our good days and our bad days. It's natural for us to go through waves. It's natural for us to have, not struggles, but questioning about how we're communicating and what we're thinking about and why we're speaking. For me, you've got all of this time at your disposal. So your own brain, your own thoughts are at this stage your deadliest enemy next to COVID-19. But let me reiterate the point that the most important thing about this is that our health is the most important thing. None of what I've just said, everything I've just been speaking about, means absolutely nothing if I'm dead. And this COVID-19 pandemic is terrible. It's an absolutely unbelievable and horrendous pandemic that we face ourselves in. Our economy is never ever going to be the same again. Our social interaction is going to take many, many years to get back to where it was, because even when all of this has ended and we all go back to normal, there's still going to be that level of hesitancy. You know, you're probably not going to be shaking hands with strangers. You're not going to be hugging your friends like you once did. You're going to be working in a very different sort of way. And the entire state of the country is not going to be as it was. And I don't know when it will return back to normal. Life will never be the same again. It won't be what it was before this pandemic hit, although it may get to the point where we start to get to a close level of what life was once before. But at this stage right now, the health is the most important thing, and keeping everybody safe, keeping yourself safe, keeping your family safe, and protecting the NHS. I know the government bang on about it, and there is so much that the government have done and what they've said that just absolutely ruffles every one of my fibres, and I could spend 3-4 hours telling you all the things that I find really problematic about the way the government are dealing with this. I think actually for the most part I have to give my hats off to them, because what they're doing in regards to providing for the vulnerable groups and in regards to the food parcels and the way that they are shielding the extremely vulnerable people and the way that they're trying to, you know, bring down this pandemic and break the curve, that's another thing that they keep banging on about. For that specific part, you can't fault them. They're doing brilliant in that sector. They've got personal experience to back up how amazing I think the government have been. You can't ask for any more. There are other areas that I don't agree with, and I think that we could have handled this situation in a very different way. But then, to be fair to the government as well, this virus is still unknown. We don't know much about it, nor do we know about it, you know, in November 2019, this virus wasn't even invented. And it started obviously in Wuhan and has just swept the entire world. And actually, from where we are right now, we're not in a great situation, but there are other countries that are in a much worse position than we are. And I do think that we are kind of getting to the final stages of the peak, and we will be in a better position, say this time next month. But at this stage, the most important thing is staying at home and only going out for the following reasons. I mean, if you follow the guidelines, then you know that you've done your bit, and we all have a specific part to play. And I understand, I mean, I really feel for the families who are in like one bedroom apartments, and all of the family members, the kids, mum, dad, are all in one single room. They've not got a garden, they've not got a balcony. And it's those people where if you look outside your window and you see that beautiful weather that we've had over the weekend, how hot it's been in the UK. I mean, that's typical as well, isn't it? You know, we have the hottest Easter in record history, and no one can go out. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, that is such a UK thing. It's absolutely a UK thing. But there are so many people out there in worse positions. And then you have to think about the people that are losing their lives to this horrendous disease. I mean, it's suffocating people. It's not a nice way to go. And I saw this kind of special story that the BBC did when they went into like an intensive care unit, and they showed you what was happening. And my heart bled for these people. It was horrendous. I mean, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. And I pray to God that I never, ever experience that, nor do any of my family or my partner and her family as well, because it's just, you don't ever want to go through that. And, you know, we've surpassed 10,000 UK deaths due to COVID-19. It's changed everyone and everything, really. But if we all follow the rules, if we all stay at home, because the government don't want to impose these rules, we don't want to stay at home for the foreseeable future. So if we grin and bear this, and just take the good days with the bad days, and accept the situation that we're in, no matter how hard it is, and we can whinge, we can moan, we can cry, we can whine. We're entitled to that, because this is out of our control. So I think we're entitled to being a bit huffy and puffy and upset when we want to. Obviously, being like that all day, every day is not healthy, and we've got to try and keep positive about this, but we're all entitled to having those days and those moments. But if we all kind of, you know, come together, stand together, and do this now, sacrifice now, then we can get back to normal at a later date. I would want nothing more than to be able to go out that door, go back to work, and return to the life that I was having. But it's not to be. But it won't be forever. And I think coming out of this, there will be benefits because of this pandemic. I think it shows you just how important human interaction is, how important the social aspect of when you go to work, for example. I've always been a big believer that I think the social aspect of work is just as important as the job itself. I truly believe that. I think they're both equally as important, and I think this pandemic highlights just how important that is. And I think also it shows you just how important family it is, and just how important, you know, going to your local shop, getting your supplies, you know, all of these little bits and pieces that we take for granted. I hope in the long run we just appreciate and count our lucky stars as to how kind of fortunate and lucky we are as a nation. You know, we have great food supplies, we have great, you know, healthcare. The NHS is one of the best healthcare services in the world, despite their flaws, and there's always going to be flaws in every individual part that you do. So I think that when we get back to a certain sense of normality, we will appreciate things a lot more. At least I hope we will appreciate things a bit more. And we've just got to kind of keep a positive mind and note that this is not going to last forever, and also just keep thinking that hopefully within the next couple of months or so, things will slowly but surely go back to where we were. It's not going to just overnight, they're going to lift this lockdown and say, right, everyone go back to work, go back to school, see your friends, family, go to clubs, pubs. It's going to be a gradual drip by drip, just the way that they implemented lockdown. It's probably going to be the same strategy in regards to leaving lockdown. So they'll open one specific bit first. Maybe it will be, you know, key members or the second tier, because you've got the key workers, essential workers, and then there's probably like a list of, you know, essential work to non-essential work, and they'll start letting individual groups go back to work. That will probably be the first thing. They'll start to bring the economy back. They'll start to open places, and then you'll probably get the schools. You'll then get the extremely vulnerable people coming out of shielding, or having a less restricted kind of way of shielding. So in regards to maybe being able to leave a bit more, or going to see friends or close family members. And then probably you've got the pubs, clubs, restaurants, all of that. That will probably be the very last thing. And then everything will be reopened again. But that's probably going to take months, I would say 3, 4, 5 months at most. So I don't want to spend too much longer on this. I just wanted to give you my thoughts and feelings. It's very up in the air, because this is an unprecedented situation. This situation consistently changes, so my thoughts to it are kind of always on the spot. My mind is racing and is changing my ideas on this every single day, but that's because of the situation itself. But But let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comment section below to life in lockdown. Are you finding the same problems that I'm finding, or are you coping in a different way? Are you having different problems to the problems and benefits that I see? Are you being productive? How are you spending your time in self-isolation? What you're doing? Let's kind of get a conversation going. And as I said, we've got nothing better to do at the moment, so kind of let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comment section below, and I will respond to every single comment that I get. So, you know, don't be shy. You know, you can also, my email address is on my YouTube channel. If you ever want to email me, you can tweet me at DJ Bagpuss 1998. You can contact me on social media. If you want to speak to me, you can. The door is open and I'm here for you, should you need it, should you want it. Right, so we've discussed life in lockdown, and let's now move on to the behind the scenes of Murdered by My Username. It is the most recent video that I have uploaded onto my YouTube channel. It is my first ever fictional adult story. And adult, what I mean by that is I don't mean it's adult in that kind of adult. What I mean is it's a story designed for adults, because it's quite a dark story. But it's an audiobook. So about a month ago, I was sitting at work and I had some time on my hands. So I started writing a page of a story that I've had in my head for years. I've had this story in my mind for 2-3 years, and I've always wanted to get into writing. So let me give you some backstory. It isn't just something that I thought I'll wake up one morning and go, right, today I'm going to write a story. This has been on my mind subconsciously for maybe 10-12 years, and suddenly I've had the time and chance to actually do this. Now, I started writing this story way before the lockdown, and actually it was a specific thing that we did at work that kind of reopened the door for me to actually get into writing. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. So as a child, I used to write stories. I used to have, I think I had like 50 or 60 stories that I was writing as a kid. I loved English, as you know. If you go back to podcast of the DJ Bagpuss season 1 when I discussed to you about my school days, I loved English. English was my go-to subject. Like, I loved English with an absolute passion, and I was right at the top of English. It seems that you're either blessed with English or you're blessed with maths, and the really confident and clever chaps are blessed with both. And for me, words are where I strive, and I excel in that. So as a child, I used to spend a lot of time writing stories and movie ideas. Effectively, they were rip-offs of things that I watched. So I never created anything an original or unique way. Like, I watched an episode of Primeval, I then wrote a story about dinosaurs. Primeval was about dinosaurs. I watched a movie about a hotel that gets seized by terrorists. I then wrote Saviour of the Day in a hotel. So, like, my ideas were literally carbon copies of stuff that I had just seen on the telly that I then put into my own words. I mean, it's as big of plagiarism as you can possibly get. I mean, like, I created nothing unique, and that was effectively just because of my age. And although I was great with words, I wasn't creative enough to come up with my own unique ideas, or to put the DJ Bagpuss creative stamp on that. And it seems that when I look at YouTube videos, it's stuff that I've been influenced by, that I put my own unique touch on, but this wasn't that. What I was doing was effectively just copying people and putting it in my own words. Never publishing anything, but I remember doing that as a kid, because I used to have lots of, like, my action figures, and I used to play movies that I'd come up with based on movies that I'd already seen. So I used to spend a lot of my time kind of writing the movie idea, writing the story, playing those stories with my action figures. Like, my Quentin Tarantino that I created when I was a child made 116 movies over a 50-year period, compared to the 9 that he actually made in real life. But then, as I got older, that kind of hobby went away. I then kind of moved into gaming, and then as I got older and started work, other things, kind of YouTube became a real hobby. Then I got my actual job, then I met my partner, so life changed as well, and I'll come on in the third and final part of this podcast to my life changes. But there was a time as a child that I was really into writing, and then it moved away. At work, I came up with the idea of people to send Valentine's Day stories about their partner. It was an idea that I thought it'd be nice to share stories about how you met your partner, or a story that's happened between you and your significant other, because we do a big day on Valentine's Day where we kind of, you know, celebrate Valentine's and doing lots of different things. We do, like, when we write messages to our colleagues on love hearts, we do a game. So this year it was the Cupid's Arrow game that we created, and I'm kind of behind with a team of people coming up with these ideas and creating these ideas. So because I came up with the idea of people writing in stories about their significant other, I thought I'd lead the way, lead by example, and show everybody just what I'm made of. And I wrote a short story. It was about 3-4 pages. It was going to be one. I got kind of a bit carried away and then ended up writing 4 pages. It was about how I met my partner and a story about my partner, and it was that. And it went down really, really well. I mean, I'd finished writing it and I then gave the story to my partner before sharing it out with my work colleagues. And I remember finishing writing it and thinking to myself 2 things. I had 2 trains of thought. The first one was, I really enjoyed writing that. The second train of thought was, actually, this story is quite good. Like, I added my own unique trait in it, and I think I write in a very specific kind of way. But it opened then the door to me kind of sitting there and thinking, actually, I wouldn't mind getting into writing. So I'm definitely going to do documentary style stories. Maybe stories about my condition, about my life, and those kind of mockumentary, documentary style stories in the future is definitely something I'm going to do again, because I got success from that with the Valentine's Day story that I did. But I also wanted to write a fictional story, and I then thought I want to kind of do like a crime thriller / horror story, a really dark story, because as you know, if you're regular fans of DJ Bagpuss, I'm very influenced by horror. I love the darker side of the human kind of nature. I said human very, very weirdly then. The darker side of human nature. I'm quite fascinated by that. I don't know why, but there's an interest there. So I love horrors, I love murder stories, I love crime stories, and to watch a crime unfold and to work out why this person did this particular thing, or why do people do these type of things. And I think that because we can't grasp why somebody would commit an evil or an atrocious act, we're kind of intrigued by that even more. That's why I think the horror genre does so well, because we like to be in fear, we like to be shocked, we kind of get a thrill from that, because we know that, especially when we watch a horror movie, we know that person isn't in real danger. So we can relax and enjoy the horror. And I've always been about that. When I hear horror makers speak about that, you know, you've got people sitting there and going, how can somebody enjoy watching somebody getting chopped to pieces, or, you know, viciously raped and attacked? And how can you sit there and actually enjoy watching that? And I think because we know that that person isn't in that sort of danger, we can relax, and it allows us to kind of scream and shout all of the scary people and all of the horrendous stuff that happens in the world. It's our way of releasing that energy, I think. I think there's definitely a fascination that everybody has with that, because that's why crime stories are really interesting. If you look on Netflix, loads of the top kind of most performing shows are those documentaries about appalling serial killers, horrendous crimes that take place, and they tell real stories of horrendous acts, and we have that fascination to it. And I had all of those thoughts in my head when I came up with the idea of this story. And I knew, and this is the idea that I've had in my head, I knew I wanted to do a story about the internet, because I've used the internet so much over the years. I'm really interested by the internet. I think the internet's a wonderful thing, a powerful thing. This thing that I'm doing right now, YouTube, is powered by the internet. The job that I do is powered by the internet. Well, one aspect of it is all about the internet and the computer. So, you know, that is where I am 95% of the time, and I wanted to tell a story on that. In the past also, I was interested in like stranger danger. We had these videos that surfaced around when we did our ICT lessons, and they showed you these videos from CEOP about what happens when a young person goes online, thinks that they're talking to somebody, but it turns out to be somebody with really bad intentions. That side fascinated me, so I thought I wanted to tell a story about that. So I knew it was about the internet, I knew it was about stranger danger, I knew I was probably going to use, you know, dating sites on the internet, such as like Badoo, Plenty of Fish, and then I thought, right, I need a unique trait about my story. So before we go any further, if you haven't seen or listened to Murder by a Username in full and in detail, then I'm about to spoil the entire story for you. So this is your spoiler warning, should you not have listened to that in full. If you don't care about the story, then feel free to carry on. But if you want to listen to the story in full, because there's 2 or 3 twists in this story. So this is your effective spoiler warning right now. But I wanted to do a story that had twists, And also, I wanted to tell the story from the victim's point of view. I knew that. But I also wanted to do a story from the killer's point of view. Because I don't think many crime stories look at the killer's point of view. So I actually stepped into the skin of the killer, skin of the character, and pretended to be a horrendous, evil, vile human being, justifying their actions. And I want people to listen to it and go, what on earth is this? How can this person justify what they are doing? It can't be. You can't justify it. And that is what I wanted. So I wanted the story to jump between the victim's point of view of the young person that is murdered, and then also I wanted it to swap to the killer's point of view. So you find out how the username of my heroine, if you like, how he goes onto the internet, how he sets up his profile, how he then starts chatting with the account 01, and it then transpires that the account 01 is not who my victim thinks that they are, but actually it's the police, it's the Metropolitan Police who are doing like a murder by username campaign, which I did some research, and there have been campaigns like this in the past of actual police officers who go onto these websites, they create an account, they pretend to be the predator, and they then go to the child and say, this is what you've done, this is the kind of danger that you put themselves in. Normally 9 times out of 10 they pretend to be the child rather than the actual predator themselves. So they pretend to be the child, they then lure the predator to a location, and then they're there. So the predator thinks they're meeting a child, but they're not, they're actually meeting the police, and then they get arrested. That's what the police normally do, but I wanted that to be the twist. And the other twist is that the heroine's father is the police officer who creates the account. And at the very start, the first 2 paragraphs, I set up the scene of the heroine being killed, and then the killer's reaction to killing that person. So to tie you in, so I want you to be reading it and thinking, right, how did they die? Why did the killer do it? And the username is the account. But the police officer's account name is the account 01. And I don't think many people will spot that, but hopefully that has put you off, because then you won't get the twist. You will be sitting there and thinking, oh, I thought it was the account that murdered it, but then as the story progresses, you find out that it actually is the account, not the account 01. So, like, a couple of early points is that they thought this was a story about a victim and a killer who meet and then kill each other. They then thought that the father actually killed the son, and then they find out it's just a random person. So there's kind of 2 different twists. You've got that as the first twist, and then you find out from the father's point of view how he set everything up, and then him going on to the profile, seducing his son, who thought it was a lovely looking lady. They then agree to meet. It then has another twist, and then you have a group of the dark web users, and the account is the person that actually kills the heroine, and then you hear it from their point of view, so how they created this group of making anarchy and committing low to high level crimes. They then step up by actually murdering someone. So there's no justification, there's no motive, they're doing it for absolute fun. So you've got 3 people telling this story. So you've got, you know, the heroine, you've got the father, you've got the killer, and the story jumps between all of them. I wanted it to be murder by username because that is what it's all about. A username murders another username. The police create the murder by username campaign, and the whole purpose of the story is to highlight the dangers of social media, to highlight the dangers of the internet, but also to show it from multiple points of view as well. And I feel like the story moves along quite gradually and naturally. It doesn't spend too long on one specific thing. And I also made the deliberate and conscious effort of adding actual social media, iMessages and text messages throughout the story. So I put them onto the screen, I add then the notification sounds and bits and pieces to that. So the narrator says, oh, it's a Badoo text message, the date, time, and then you see the conversation. So it jumps between perspectives and those actual social media conversations as well. And I also then made the conscious effort of changing the language. So the police officer doesn't swear throughout the entire story. The heroine, the young 17-year-old, swears occasionally, probably uses a bit of strong language, as you normally would as a teenager. But then the criminals, the dark web group, are filled to the brim with swearing. I mean, I deliberately did that. There's 2 uses of the C word in my story as well, which I didn't just use for shock value, because I know that word is incredibly shocking and incredibly offensive. I didn't choose those words just for the sake of it. In my head, I was sitting there thinking, when I researched these dark web groups and the way that these kind of criminals communicate, that's how they speak. It's filled to the brim with swearing. And I thought, if I use those 2 words, it will highlight just how dangerous these 2 people are, and just how dangerous this guy is, effectively. How dangerous this whole group is, effectively. And I used it in context. So the swearing in the story is not there for the sake of it. But the reason why I say that is because I wanted to change the language so you can differentiate between the heroine or the young teenager speaking, to the police officer speaking, to the killer speaking. It's an incredibly dark story. I mean, effectively, I'm talking about a young person getting beaten to death, raped after being murdered, and effectively there's no happiness in this story. The killer doesn't learn any lessons, there's no payback for him, although I've got an idea for a potential sequel of the story. But effectively, it's not a happy story, it's a very, very dark story. But I thought it serves an important message. The backstory ties up with the front story, and there's a purpose. This isn't just a murder for the sake of it. And again, I did my research, I looked into like some of the things that can be offered on the dark web. I then didn't copy stories, but used tiny bits from stories that I've heard about things that happen on the dark web, and then moulded it all together. I've been influenced by things that I've seen, things that I've heard, stories that I've been told, kind of using my actual real life experience of social media as well. I mean, I'm very au fait with the technology and with the service. So it made it incredibly easy for me to tell this kind of story. I think personally, if I was going to give myself some self-feedback, what I would say is that I do have a tendency to waffle on, as you can clearly see. But I do have a big tendency to waffle. And there were some times where I was reading it back and thought I could have maybe shortened it, I could have maybe condensed it down. But then when I was doing like read-throughs and looking to get rid of, you know, some bits and pieces, there wasn't really anything that I thought, if I take that out, that's not going to make sense as well. And I tried to, even if I was maybe saying the same point, say it in a slightly different way. I did originally intend for the story to be longer, but it's only about 20 pages, that's why it's a short story. But I got to page 16, 17, and I thought, if I just continue to write, there isn't anywhere else for me to go with it. I had a whole new story in my head that I could have carried on, but I wanted to test the waters because I wanted to see what areas am I really doing well in, what areas can I improve, so then when I do maybe the sequel to this tale at a later date, I will then know what I can work on and what worked well once, so then I'll put that into the story again. I wanted it to be deliberately intense, I wanted it to be dark, and as I said, it is a story not for the faint of heart, because there's no happiness, there's no upliftment in it. It is a really dark tale, and I had to kind of put myself in the skin of a character of some really horrible, vile human beings, and I had to really kind of, you know, be quite evil in some of the things that I was saying. I think though the best stories are ones where you can visualise in your head, you can see the scene being played out in your head, and as I was writing it, I could visualise where the story was, I could visualise the woods, I could visualise him in his room, I could visualise the press conference at the end of the story, and I think that's when you know that you're on to something where you can visualise the ideas. So as I said, I said in that video for you guys to let me know your thoughts and feelings to the story, so the more feedback I can get, the better it will be. I think the next story that I will do will be like a documentary style, and I'm not sure whether I should do it in the way that I uploaded it onto this YouTube channel. So I kind of did like a white box, I put 2 photos there, and I had the kind of social media parts of the story flashing up on the screen. But I don't know whether you would want me to sit like this and read my story. I think maybe that might be a better option if it's a documentary style, so you can actually still listen to me, because again, I wanted the idea of people putting in their headphones maybe while they're sitting in bed or out in the garden or doing something. I don't want them necessarily to sit there and look at that screen for an hour. I want them to do other things, but then hopefully I can draw you in. So you might be working on something else, I then say something in my story and you go, oh, hang on, so it will keep your interest. And one of the things of the story as well, and this was a really lovely bit of feedback that I got, was that they couldn't stop. reading, like, or they couldn't stop or turn the actual story off. They wanted to find out what happened next. I kept drawing them in, and that's why I think, like, if you're writing, the first 2 paragraphs, the first page has really got to grip the reader. And in my head, when I was writing it, I thought, right, I need to set the scene. I need to tell you that this person dies, this is the killer, this is how we get there. And the story is set over 4 days. Or, well, the first date is July 26th, and then it jumps to July 30th, July 31st, August 1st, August 2nd. And in those 4 days, the murder happens. 2 weeks later, we get the press conference. So it takes place from July 26th, 2018 to August 16th, 2018. And then right at the end, it jumps a couple of months ahead. But I've left it in a way that we can pick it up with the police officer trying to find the killer. That's certainly, I've got ideas of where that can go. But again, I wanted to ensure that there was a powerful and purposeful message to this story. And that was Stranger Danger campaign, internet safety, and the fact that, you know, this happens. Because Stranger Danger is still there. And I always find it baffling. Well, I find it baffling how people put themselves in these situations. But then I've done the exact same. The difference is that I've made sure, by looking at like a photograph or getting some kind of confirmation, if I've ever met somebody who I've met on the internet. Because I have met people from meeting them online, speaking to them online. I met my partner that way. That's how we got together. So it's something that happens a lot. But you've just got to be careful, effectively, and that is the real message to it. But I thought that the twists were quite good, you know, having these twists halfway through. So this is where you think the story's going, and then hang on a minute, it goes to somewhere completely different. And I did try to keep the pacing, because I didn't want the story to linger on and dwell on for any specific time. And I made a really conscious effort of trying to keep the story flowing and moving as far as I can and as quickly as I can. But then I did feel that there were a couple of moments where I was wanting, but that's just me, that's how I write, that's how I talk. You know, I do go sometimes very much around the world. It's kind of get to the point, get short, get sweet, and do that. But yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to kind of tell you my thoughts and feelings to how I came about writing it. I kind of started writing it about a month ago, and I then finished it about 2 weeks ago. So right at the beginning of April, I finished it, and then it took me about 2 weeks to edit. I kind of did it very much over the weekend just gone, but I'd already started. So yeah, it took me about a month to do, and I think the next one I'm probably going to bring out maybe at the end of May. But again, I don't want to kind of, you know, spend all my time writing. I want to continue to do different things bit by bit, piece by piece. So we'll end this podcast with me talking about my life changes. I think that will be quite a nice way to end the podcast. I've already kind of touched upon it in this podcast, and effectively what I've been saying is that my life has changed subsequently over time. So obviously starting with different hobbies, and that is absolutely natural. You know, I started with getting into writing as a child, then I had my gaming years, then I went into kind of the music technology side, so that's when I started to think about doing live music, live remixing and all of those bits and pieces. YouTube came very much after that. I won't talk about that anymore because I've spoken endlessly about that on my channel. You could look at previous videos if you want to find out how I got into YouTube. But then when I then got my job, and the job takes, you know, 95% of my time. By the time I finish, I don't want to do any of this, because this is a very mentally draining thing to do. To sit down, turn on the camera and talk, it does take energy out of you. So I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to continually do that after working all day. I'm speaking on the phone, I'm on the computer all day. I don't want to kind of do that when I finish, unless I'm kind of doing like a video or a specific video that needs to be done like that. That's why I stopped analysing Arsenal, because it just became the same thing. It became tiresome. And again, I started to not enjoy it. So I'm trying to do videos that I'm really enjoying. I loved making this audiobook. The Fortnite Good Friday special, even though it really upset me because of how terrible that video turned out with the actual editing software, I love doing it. And I wish I might have to update my Elgato. That's probably why. I should really like install the update, because when I went onto my Elgato, it was like, do you want to update your Elgato software now? It's like, may update? No, let's just crack with the video, and that's the resulting video, an out of sync, unedited piece of shit video basically. But it was still quite entertaining. I made the best out of a bad situation, but I loved it, and I've regained that passion for editing, for recording, and kind of doing YouTube really. But I think I'm only going to do it as and when I want to make a video, but try to at least get one out once a month, so I keep the channel running, because I kind of uploaded my last video in December 2019, which is the final football video. And then these are the first 4 videos that I have done in 2020. So my thoughts on the coronavirus, or the COVID-19 pandemic I should say, and then these 3 videos respectively. If I go to one a month, I mean I had one, my FIFA soundtrack video got 17,000 views, which is absolutely unbelievable. I can't believe that many people have watched a single video of mine, and I will do that again. I'm probably going to finish off this month with that video, with the top 20 best FIFA 20 soundtrack songs. I was about to do that video, but I've constantly kept putting off making videos. So this weekend I've actually been really productive in what I've been wanting to do. And again, life changes, and that's what I'm just accepting these changes, because as you go through the years, as you get older, your hobbies, your interests change, life changes. I mean, this time last year, I didn't think I'd be where I am now to where I was, you know, in April 2019, and a lot has happened this year. A lot of changes have happened in my life, and I do think that I'm kind of going through these changes bit by bit, piece by piece at a time. But it's natural, it's part of life effectively. So, you know, I think the message really to end this podcast on is that allow these changes. Life is very unexpected. You don't know what is around the corner, what is next, and you should just enjoy each and every day while you can, and accept the good days, get through the bad days, and we'll get through this together. And in the meantime, I think that this is a perfect opportunity for you to find new hobbies, stuff that you enjoy. This is your time to really find who you are and reset yourself, really. That is, I think, the biggest and best thing about this, that it gives you time to find who you are, and you will then find out the answers to questions as to what is really important in your life. You'll work that out through this self-isolation period. And I'm with you. If I can bring anyone happiness or joy, or entertain anyone, or take somebody's boredom out, if you watch a video of mine and you're not bored anymore, then I'm doing my job, I'm doing my bit. So if I can make a difference to any of you out there, then I go to bed really, really happy, because that's all I want to do. And I'm enjoying making these videos, I'm enjoying speaking to you guys, I'm enjoying the editing and the uploading process, and I think that my channel will go on for as long as I want it to, until the day that I then decide, right, I can't do this anymore, I don't want to do this anymore. That would be the day when I close it for days. I'll never ever get rid of this channel, it will always remain on YouTube. I said in the past that I would finish doing videos, and I've got loads of series to finish. I do have a plan to finish all of them. This series may go on for another 10 episodes maybe. It might take us 2 years to make 10 episodes. And all of my series will be concluded at a point. I'm going to keep this channel running for as long as I possibly can, and hopefully you guys are here and stay here for the ride. As long as you keep watching, I will keep posting, and we'll see how many videos we can notch up. I'm going to try to stick to the schedule of once a month, but then if I don't upload for a couple of months, I've accepted that you don't care. You will only watch videos when I upload them, so I shouldn't care, because I became really obsessive. I became absolutely obsessive, and I'm that kind of person, really. If something doesn't go to the plan that I've got in my mind, I lose my mind doing it. I have to have plans that I have planned going ahead, or I get really, really annoyed. And, you know, for me, I've had all of these plans taken away out of my control because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So again, that doesn't help. But in regards to this YouTube channel, DJ Bagpuss will live on, and I'm going to be making videos in the future, and I'm not going to give you an end date. I know I said last year that after 2 years I would step away from this, but no, DJ Bagpuss is back, and I'm here for the long haul, and this channel will remain here for as long as possible. And I've got some great ideas and some good videos planned, so just stay tuned. I think I'm going to end this podcast here, because I think, again, I don't want to keep boring you. I don't want to kind of go on and make these, you know, shorter, more concise, get to the point, Bagley. I did a podcast once which was like 2 hours, and I watched that back recently, and I thought I could have easily done that in an hour, but then I thought it's quite a unique skill to have, to be able to talk to yourself for 2 hours. I mean, it's already been, I think, probably over an hour that we've been speaking already, and it just flies past, and time flies, particularly when you're having fun. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please show your support by smashing a like on the video. It really does mean a lot to me if you do. Subscribe to the channel if you're only around here, and turn on my notification bell. You can also put your, I think it's a setting, I don't know how you do it, But my dad said, why have you emailed me? And I was like, what do you mean, why have I emailed you? He says, DJ Bagpuss just emailed me. So you can get email notifications. So when I upload, you'll get an email stating DJ Bagpuss just uploaded. So you can turn that setting on if you want. And let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comment section below. And until next time, this is DJ Bagpuss signing out. Take care, stay safe, keep well, stay at home. I'm not going to become like a government official. That was just a joke. But stay safe, stay well, and until next time, take care, and I shall speak to you all later. Take care, and I shall see you all very, very, very soon.